Here and Get Known podcast. Join Pam Perry, veteran PR strategist, Emmy award-winning producer and publisher of Speakers Magazine, who will show you how to crack the code in getting out there to get known. Each week, she either interviews her media friends, PR colleagues, or she just goes solo, offering you strategies on publicity, publishing, and platform building. So listen up to hear how to get booked on media places and on superstar stages. Now, here's your host, Pam Perry.
Hey there, this is Pam Perry. Thank you for joining Get Out There and Get Known podcast. I'm excited today because I have Tamisha Harris here today, and you are going to be in for a treat. I love this lady from afar. She doesn't know this, but I have just been looking at her and just marvel at what she's doing and what she is also, not only is she with MSNBC, but she also has a program called The Perfect Pitch. So let me just tell you a little bit about her so that you know why I'm just so excited about having her. Not only is she manages and develops teams to produce highly engaging content for broadcast and digital platform, but she also works really, really well under pressure. Like I could say that even like today, some of the things that we were doing to get it together to get on this live today. She's been 8 years as a line producer, and she'll explain to you what that is. 3 years as a long format producer, which she'll explain what that is. 8 years as a videographer and field producer. Kind of you get that. 6 years as a writer, which is a basis for everything. 5 years as a Final Cut Pro editor, which is not easy to do. She knows iNews, EMPS, NewsPath, NewsSource, any of these things. News One, Pathfire, like I said, Final Cut Pro. All these things are really technical. Now, her background is in mass communications, Fork, studio, and digital video cameras. That is just some of the things that she does. But she's also worked for Warner Media. She worked for Disney, ABC as a news producer, a writer for CBS. She's been a line producer with a RNN, and she went to HBCU down in Texas called Prairie View AME University. So with that, I'm going to bring up Tamisha Harris. How are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm going to switch our sides over here. There we go. There we go. So thank you so much for joining us today. Tamisha, one of the things I always like to ask people, like, how'd you get into this? Like, was it always a thing that I want to be in television? Did I always want to work in the news category? How did people, when in high school, when people say, well, you're going to go away to school, you're going to major in communications. What are you going to do after that? So kind of explain to people how your passion for this area.
That's such a good question, Pam. So for me, I always wanted to develop television shows. That's just what I wanted to do. I wanted to write and develop, I shouldn't say write. I wanted to develop television shows. Someone else could do the writing as long as I'm directing it, and maybe like creating it. So I've always wanted to do that. And once I graduated high school, I attended Prairie View A&M University, and then went over to the Art Institute of Houston after Prairie View because they specialize, the institute specialized in more of the technical background of production. So I wanted to learn, the lighting. I wanted to learn the audio. I wanted to learn video. I wanted to learn the editing. I wanted to be hands-on because when you go to the institutes, you actually are doing the actual films. So you're creating your own productions, your own crew, your own teams. You get amazing opportunities for internships. So that's how that started. From there, I interned with a Black woman. I think her name was Abiba Howell. I think that's who she was. She owned this film company called Dominion Films. And just to see a Black woman who owns her own video production company, I'm like, wow, so I can own my own video production company. That just is not something that I knew was possible.
Because people didn't see it.
Yeah, because I'd never seen them before. We always see Hollywood and all of these, big, studios. It's not something that I thought that was within my grasp. But it was, and I saw it for myself, and I was able to shadow her for a few months and just take notes. And like, you know what, this is something I can absolutely do myself. So what I did was I learned, of course, school teaches you everything you need to know, but unless you're actually in the field and applying those things, you really can't get a good grasp for it. So I taught myself the latest cameras. After graduation, I, worked for Nextel. I don't know if you guys remember Nextel Communications, but it was a
that was a phone service.
Yeah, phone service. So I worked there and bought myself. I worked there like nonstop. I was working like 18 hours a day overtime to buy myself camera equipment. Buy
Lighting,
computers, lighting. So I saved about $12,000 to launch my own video production company.
Wow.
And so I did that probably within about 8 months. And I already had the show idea that I wanted. It was called Grindin' TV. And it was like one of the first reality shows. But it was a day in the life of you as an entertainer. So if you are a PR agent, what is it like to be a PR agent? So I would follow, or if you are a radio DJ, what is it like to be a radio DJ or a model? So I would do a day in the life of you. As
that sounds cool to me.
Yeah, it was really fun. It was fun. And it did really well. So and we can go into that. I don't want to.
Where did it air?
So what I did was, that's such a great question. So what I did was, as a new producer, nobody hired me, nobody knew me. I just had this show that I created with my camera equipment and a few people that I hired on the side. So what I did not know is, Pam, in the middle of the night, when the the infomercials come on, you can buy that.
I would be like I'll be in a trance watching a lot of those.
Right. Well, you can buy that time slot, and anybody can buy those time slots. So it doesn't necessarily have to be an infomercial. If you have a movie that you want to put on air, you can put a movie on air, whatever you want to do with it.
Overnight.
Whatever you want to do with that time slot. So I a friend of mine, he had a video show on at midnight. And I said, well, how did you get that on air? And he said, I just bought the time slot. It's $700 a week. And I said, well, I could do $700 a week because I'm working like crazy, like a maniac. And it's, I said, I could do that. So I went to what was called UPN at the time in Atlanta. I talked to I think they're media buyers, media seller, whoever they are. I talked to them. Yes, they said, well, you can buy the time slot. I bought the time slot and I aired my show every week on UPN, and the ratings were so phenomenal. Back then, I was young. I was and I graduated early from college, but back then it was Girlfriends, and the Bernie Mac show was on air. And the ratings just right past.
Wow.
So it was phenomenal for me, and it was great for the station. But I didn't understand that. I didn't understand the business.
But you never really saw during that time, Girlfriends and Bernie Mac, there were no reality shows. How did you know to do?
It's what I wanted to do. That's such a good question. It's just what I wanted to see on TV. I created what I wanted to see on TV.
Yes.
So it wasn't a matter of, what have I seen, or no, what I want to see is what I want to look at, what I want to watch is something that is entertaining, that's going to inform what I want to do in the future. I thought that was exciting. And so that's what I created, what I thought was exciting, which is what I continue to create, what I find exciting.
That is good. Yeah. So mass communications was your major at Prairie View. Graduated early, got this camera equipment, working night and day to get all of this. And now camera equipment, what you paid then and what you pay now.
Oh yeah. I mean, I think back then, I think now it's a lot better. because it's just so accessible for everyone. Back then, I think my camera was about $4,000. Yeah, and
That's a whole studio today.
it is. And then the Apple computers, I think my computer was about 3,000, and then I had to, it was a lot. And then I bought and then I had to pay the rent at my little my little office that I got, because I wanted the whole nine. I wanted everything to go.
You
with
want
it.
to be like a production.
Yes, I wanted because that's what I saw. The woman who I interned with, she had that, and so I knew that was my blueprint. But here's the thing: I didn't understand the business, Pam. So I didn't understand the business. I understood the creativity part of it. I understood the creative. I didn't understand the business, and so I didn't realize that within that time slot that I had, I needed to also start shooting commercials so that it could pay for that time slot for me, because commercials pay for programs.
Because you had the ratings.
Right, because I had the ratings, but I didn't understand it. So I pulled the show off air because I'm like, I don't understand how to do this. And I didn't have a mentor. A lot of people now have mentors and all those things. I didn't have a mentor to go to. Coaches.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have that at the time. I was the only person I knew in my, group of people who was able to do something like that. So, or at least where I lived.
Mm-hmm.
So I pulled the show off air. UPN, which is now called the CW network. They called me after 2 weeks and they said, "Hey, what happened to your show?" I said, I wasn't making any money from it, so I needed to pull it off air. And they said, "Why don't you come in? Why don't you come in the office and let's talk?" I said, "Well, okay." And I didn't know what they wanted, but they ended up hiring me as a full-time producer for the network, which ended up turning into the CW network. So I started producing for America's Next Top Model and just all of the fun shows, doing promotions, producing. So it was just fun. It turned into an amazing opportunity. And then from there, it just spawned into working with all the networks.
Roughly, when you think about it, so you graduated from college, you graduate early, you start your own production company, save money, buy all this camera equipment, writing scripts, finding talent, all of this. How old were you roughly about?
22.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing. That is really amazing. That's why I said, I just love what you did. That is amazing. At 22, my daughter's 25. I can't even figure out if she's going to get on the train safely to Chicago or not. You know what I'm saying? It's like,
I was 22. It's so funny that you position that question like that, because I never thought about that. But now when I think about 22 years old, I was super focused because I was just afraid of not making it. I was super afraid of not being this person who I had in my head. So I just wanted to get there,
So then you're working for CW. And so at this point in time, you're doing shows. How did you transfer into news, I guess you would say? Because that's a whole other mindset of stuff.
Yeah. So after the CW network, that merged with UPN and the WB network. They formed the CW. I worked there for a while after that, and then they laid us off. But I'd already been kind of planting seeds elsewhere, because luckily it was such an amazing opportunity, because the BET Awards had come in town around that time to Atlanta. So I was able to connect with, as a local producer, I was able to connect with the people at BET and kind of talk to them about, some opportunities that they may have had available. And I flew to New York and talked to, what was Penny McDonald is who I ended up talking to with BET. She hired me on. So it was such a smooth transition. She hired me on as a producer in Atlanta. So I think they called it. It was called it's a field producer. So a field producer. So all of the music was in Atlanta. I'm in New York now, but all of the music was in Atlanta. The rappers and all that kind of fun stuff. So they needed someone to shoot footage in Atlanta. Well, I'm a producer, but I'm also, because if we remember back to a year or 2 years prior to that time,
you were a videographer.
I was shoot, because I had to do everything myself. When you own your own company, you got to do everything yourself, and that managed to pay off for me. So I thank God that I was able to do that. So they needed someone who could shoot because they had a very low, they didn't have the budget that you would imagine, but I was still able to make it happen. They needed someone to shoot and then send the video footage, produce it, shoot it, and then send the video footage back up to New York. And so I was able to do that.
Wow.
And it just gave me, and I networked like crazy. So I was in, at So Def, and I was at, any record label, everything we had in Atlanta at that time. It was Jeezy, it was Jeezy's label, everything that was happening in Atlanta during that time, I was a part of it.
Mm-hmm.
So I was able to network and managed to also run across an executive with Warner Music Group.
Okay.
He introduced me to Shanita Floyd, who was the marketing executive, was a vice president of marketing for, I can't remember the name of the label, but it was a pretty big label under Warner Music Group. And I ended up getting some really great opportunities with documentaries, with Rap-A-Lot, and shoot music videos for Gucci Mane and Jeezy, and then all of the rappers who were under that label.
Well, you talk to a baby boomer, so I recognize the names, but I know none of their music. If you were to play it, I'd be like, "Who is that?" Okay,
Yeah, no, you
but I just realized that they are big names, and they're big names in BET. But it's just kind of like,
So
I'm more like the Motown sound.
So it was good. So it was fun. I was able to make a name for myself in the music directing music videos. And then from there, once the budget, I did that for years, Pam. I did that for, oh my God, years. And did just productions for Warner, Music Group and BET. And then once the budgets kind of started shrinking, I needed to pivot.
Okay.
And that's when I started looking at news. So I never,
the skills are transferable. I mean,
yeah.
really.
Well, you know what? It's funny. I thought that to be true, but news is a completely different beast. It really is. News and entertainment, they're just two completely different things. And so
Is it the pace?
Well, it was, you have to learn how to write for news.
Okay.
So you have to learn how to write for news. I was in the entertainment world of music and shows and those kind of, that's completely different from politics and completely different from, relevant stories that's going on in the Washington Post and the New York Times, the USA Today. It's a completely different world. So I needed to once again teach myself. So what I did was I went to the different journalism school curriculum. I just Googled the journalism school curriculums, and then I bought those books that they were teaching in the classes. And then I taught myself journalism. I taught myself how to write for news. I taught myself, the lingo, everything. And I had to start from the bottom. But what I learned was, if you wanted to make in the news industry, you had to move to New York. And
number one market.
It's the number one market. And that was awesome for me because I absolutely love this city. I love New York City, and I was able to, I probably studied for maybe a year and a half news journalism, and then I made my move to New York. I got a job with New York One. Yeah,
I got number one station, the number one market. Okay,
I got a job with New York One, and it is a really good station for their local news. ABC 7 is the number one news station in the country.
Right.
ABC 7 in New York, and but I got the job at New York One, and let me tell you something, Pam. I thought that I knew news, and I did not know news. As soon as I worked on the job for 8 hours, 7 hours. And the next day they said, we cannot have you back. I did not know what I was doing. I had no idea. I knew in theory.
God. Oh,
I
no.
knew in
And
theory.
you were used to working in the television industry,
Absolutely.
broadcast industry for years. Had your own show, doing all this stuff.
Completely different from news. Has nothing to do with news. Little did I know. So I understood journalism in theory, but I didn't understand it when it comes to applying it. I did not understand how to apply it, and it's very fast. And you have to know how to write fast, and you have to know all of those things. But luckily, the day, so it's so funny because the executive producer who essentially let me go that day, she said, Tamisha, she said, you were incredibly, you were just incredibly bright. I wish I could teach you this, but I just don't have time to teach this to you. And she and I both, we sat in her office and we cried. Tears came down my eyes. I said, don't worry about it. I thank you so much for giving me the opportunity. But here I am in New York. This is my second day in New York. And I'd gotten fired from the job that I came there to get, right?
Oh my God.
But I'd planted other seeds.
And it wasn't like it was Mississippi or, like a market number 89.
No.
We're talking like a top market. It's
right.
Very expensive.
And New York rent is $2,000 and just all kinds.
Yes. Yes.
So, but I'd also applied at this place called Fios One. And then that was RNN TV. I applied there as well, but I hadn't heard back. I hadn't heard back from them. And I walked out of the building. The second I walked out of the building of New York One, Fios One called.
Oh, good. Woo, that was God looking out for you.
Oh my God, in such a big way. So they said, can you come up now? Because that Fios One it was in Westchester at the time, Westchester, New York.
Mm-hmm.
So,
not the city.
So I took the Metro North. I walked right out of New York One, which is in Chelsea. And I found my way to Westchester. I took the Metro North and I talked to the news director there. I said, listen, I need to be very honest with him about my experience. He said, listen, we'll teach it to you. He said, we'll teach you. He said, we can. He said, I'm going to assign the executive producer. You'll work the worst shift. And I did. I worked the worst shift. And I was happy about that. It was overnights.
So you can't mess up too much.
Right. Exactly. I worked the worst shift. And he taught me, Alan. I wish I could remember Alan's last name, but he was my executive producer. He taught me every single thing I needed to know about news. Mm-hmm. And it was Fios One was probably not even on the list of markets. Like you probably couldn't even find the news station, but it taught me what I needed to know about news. From there, I think I worked at Fios for maybe 3 years, 2.5, 3 years. And from there, I got hired at the number 3 local news station in the country, which was CBS, which is unheard of. To go from a news station that is not even on the map, Fios was not on the map, to jump to a CBS
as a writer,
was incredible.
And not really having that as your background.
I didn't have that.
So some people at Howard probably over there would have fought you because they went to the journalism school. They were on the school newspaper. They were on television. They were like, what? Yeah, but you had that tenacity. You had the tenacity and the vision. Yeah. This is what you want to do. You spent 3 years, basically kind of like going back to school, really, in a way.
That's exactly what it was. I spent those years going back, teaching myself, journalism. And then from CBS, I was hired. And I just thank God for, the women who he placed in the path to give me an opportunity, because Renee Washington hired me at ABC 7, which is the number 1 local station in the country, which is just unheard of. I will never it does not, it doesn't escape me the fact that, here I am coming into this industry without not having any experience
in the news industry, because you were already in broadcasting,
coming into the news industry and being able to leap into these seats where people are just have been, studying and working their entire careers. Yeah.
So what you're doing now, you're doing pictureperfectcourse.com.
Hmm.
There's something you learned about news that you
Hmm.
want to share with other people
Yeah.
about, you said it's different. And so people who are wanting to pitch themselves to the news stations, what is it that the main thing that you learned that you're really trying to get people to have an epiphany about?
Yeah. So whenever you're pitching, and now, I've been a news producer now since for 10 years now. Okay.
Hmm.
So, I tell that story it didn't, those things, that was over years.
Right.
That happened over years. But, I tell people, make sure, we know what it is. You understand what you do. What you do is the most important thing to you, but it's
Hmm.
not the most important thing to everyone else.
Ooh, say that
What
again.
Right. So what you have to do is make it important to them. And who is them? It's not the producer. What you do is what I care about doesn't
The
matter.
audience.
It's the viewers. So
Mhm.
how do you know what the viewers care about? You have to know who my viewers are. So you have
Ooh.
to know you have to find out, whenever you're pitching to a particular station or a network, who are their viewers? What's the demographics? Um,
Mm.
you know, who's watching that particular show?
Mhm.
So that if you are a interior designer and you want to pitch, you have, whatever it is that you do, whatever you're a subject matter expert on, you need to know, oh, wait a minute, this is a political show I'm pitching to. So if I'm a health expert or an interior designer or a mental health professional, I probably need to ask which show uh, features those particular subject matter
Demographic.
experts, that particular
Mhm.
that subject matter. So
Mhm.
you just need to know what these who the audience is, and the topics that they have on their show. That's the most
Mhm.
important thing. Otherwise, you'll just be spinning your wheels when it comes to pitching, and you'll wonder. Even that's for publicists, and it goes for publicists and people without publicists. You need to know who the viewers are, and if you don't, then it's like, why is Tamisha not emailing me back? Why is she not? Because that's not who my viewers don't care, or it's just a bad time.
It is timing. Timing is
The
part of
timing
it.
is
It could
everything.
be perfect, but it's just bad timing. I mean,
Yeah.
if it was everybody's talking about Bill Cosby, I don't know,
Mhm.
whatever. It's like the news cycle that's like, uh, sinkholes in Florida, and you want to talk about weight loss. I mean, really, we're not going to be interested at this point. Like, we're really talking about some other stuff right now. And so I always tell people, I said, if you
Yeah.
just had a nose for news and understand the news cycles about what's important and what's going on, you wouldn't just decide that I want to pitch this, and this, and I want to get on. You got to understand maybe how you can piggyback, or what they call newsjack, into other stories that are going on right now. Because
That's
it's always,
exactly it.
and if they call it newsjacking, but a long time ago we call it piggybacking. But
Mhm.
whatever it is, whatever is currently going on in the news, and so you kind of have to be a news junkie. I mean,
You
not a
have to be
junkie.
able to, like, with my course, Picture Perfect Course, .com. With my course, that's exactly what I have to what I teach people, because you have to go into open the first thing you want to do is go to Washington Post, or go to
Yes,
USA Today, or go to
New York
whatever,
Times.
New York
Mhm.
Times, and find out what are we talking about, because those
Yes.
top stories, those are the stories that's going to be in our news cycle.
And you
So
know what? Also, too, to Tamisha, also two magazine covers. So because you also talk about magazine covers as well. But magazines, if you want to get in magazines, know what the magazines are talking about on
yeah,
the cover. They
yeah,
spend so much research and time trying to understand their audience. So
yeah.
I can't find my essence. I guess it's upstairs. But the essence covers, they have different things that they're talking about. Last month they were talking about, Black Lives Matter and staying woke, and the whole, that whole scenario.
Mhm.
But really, even if you just dovetail into what the
That's
magazine
all it
covers,
is. Just
yes,
dovetailing, because it's so funny. You'd be surprised how creative people are when it comes to, you could be a chef, and it's like, well, nothing's happening. You could find a headline to make sense for your your story. You just have to make sure you have it in that pitch.
yes.
you just have to make sure that it matches with it's relevant for what's going on in the news cycle, and then it makes sense. And then I also talk about awareness days. Make sure you know the awareness days.
Yes.
So if it's mental health week, but that's not what's going on in the news, then that's still relevant, because we don't know all of the awareness days, so you're informing us.
And
So let
try
us
to do
know
it a little bit ahead of time. Don't give it like it is such and such week, like nurses week or caregivers week, and it's like Monday.
Let us know ahead of time. That way we can plan for it. If it's autism month or something, we don't know all of those days. That because that's your specialty. So let us know. And so that's what makes that's also relevant.
I love that. I love it. We have people over here that said something about that. You are amazing. Thank you, Manzur. He says good right now. Talk about AP style. So talk a little bit about AP style, because people are pitching themselves. They have to know how to write. They don't write.
But we don't, honestly, for us, we don't expect you to know AP style. That's for us as producers and writers. We don't expect people who pitch us in AP style at all. We don't expect that. But just making sure that what you are pitching is relevant. It's in the news. Making sure that you know who our viewers are. That's the most important thing. Is knowing who the viewers are.
They can even go on the website. And you were talking earlier about how you bought time from UP, and you had to go to the media department. Sometimes you can actually go to the advertising sales department and ask for the demographics.
That's all you have to do. You literally do that, or you can Google it.
Now they may call you afterwards and ask you about advertising, but
right.
But you can't get that information. They'll be like, "What's you running that?" They'll call you every week.
Yeah, you can get that information, and that will save you months of wasting your time. It will save you from feeling like, okay, maybe what my pitch is not good enough. No, it may not be that. You're just pitching to the wrong producer of that station or the wrong station.
Yeah. And one of the things too is that the news stations will track. Is it Arbitron or Nielsen, or did they merge?
Nielsen, from what
Nielsen, because you never know. Everybody's merged. Everybody's like one thing.
But it could be. It could be other things.
So the Nielsen ratings will actually tell you the demos, the age, the demographics of so many different things on a particular show in each particular segment. So how was MSNBC set up in terms of the show? Does Joanne Reed, does she actually have her own producer, and then that's just separate and it's its own little bubble versus someone else's show?
Yeah, so we have and I just started at MSNBC, and we have been in quarantine. Well, we still haven't been in the building yet, so I'm excited to go back in the building and meet everyone.
So you got a job while you were in quarantine?
Yeah, so I left CNN.
You are bad, girl.
So I left CNN, and MSNBC actually called me. I didn't apply for the job, so it was so exciting. I'm like, wow! And I didn't expect to move back to New York because I was in CNN in Atlanta, so I didn't have any expectations of moving back to New York. In fact, I was wanting to move out to LA, but MSNBC called. So, saying that, having said that, I have not been at 30 Rock yet. We don't go into the building. I'm very excited. We don't go into the building until September. So I haven't met Joy Reid. I haven't met anyone other than who's on my team. So I'm not all the way clear on how things are set up. But what I do know is that every show has their own producers. We don't merge. We don't merge producers. So every show has their own producers. MSNBC, they have several producers per show. They are it's just a wonderful production. They are very strategic and in the way that they do things, and there's all kinds of they just make sure there will be no mistakes. Wow. So foolproof.
That's a lot. That's a lot of pressure every day. But you know what? This is a thing that because I work in media too, so it is a lot of pressure. And then we had the COVID-19, and that's pressure because it's life and death. But when we're in this whole media bubble, it is like life and death. It is like no mistakes. And I remember saying one time I was working at the Detroit Free Press, and I made a mistake, and I was like, nobody died. And it was like, no, you didn't say that.
Yeah, mistakes are a big deal. But what I've learned, mistakes are a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
But
Because it
and
costs money.
they do cost money. And as a line producer, for me, it's probably one of the most important positions because we have to time the shows out. And when you're timing the shows, you have to make sure that the commercials come on time because they're paying millions for these commercials. And so when you're in that kind of position, or hundreds of thousands, whatever these people are paying, when you're in that position, it depends on your timing.
Mm.
So it is a lot of pressure, but I will say this, what I have learned is everyone makes mistakes. And so, whereas before when I was new, I would make mistakes and I would almost melt in my seat because I just felt like, oh my God, now I make a mistake and I say, okay, let's keep going. We got to keep going. And
Mm-hmm.
because it's every minute is a new minute. So you make a mistake and you got to keep pushing. There's no time, and don't let anybody make you feel like the worst person on earth because
Right.
they've also made a mistake.
Wow. So
Yeah.
talk a little bit about, are you in NABJ or any of the Black journalists organizations? How many MSNBC is pretty, I would say pretty diverse.
Yeah.
I really I mean, you got Tiffany Cross and all of that. So
Yeah.
they have, so in terms of maybe your previous employers, how was the atmosphere or the environment if, as an African American, I'm working in the newsroom?
It's funny because God has just placed me around just in amazing I have been in amazing company, with my teams and the companies that I've worked for. I just, yes, there are issues in the news industry in general when it comes to representation, but I've come around in a time in news where they are actively making working toward the steps of making sure people are in place. But then also we have to get more of us in the position of making decisions and not necessarily in front of the television, in front of the camera,
There
because a
you go.
lot of us want to be in front of the camera, but we need to be in the producer's role. We have to be in management. We have to be able to make the decisions on what stories are going to be told and how those stories will be told and who's going to tell the story, because all of those things matter. And if you are in front of the camera, you don't necessarily have the authority to say it. I will say anchors have a lot of they have a lot of responsibility, and they do have a lot of say, but not necessarily, they're not in the producer's role. And we are doing this all day, every day, and we're always looking for stories, and we're always looking for, subject matter experts. So for me, if I know that diversity is very important, on the show. So if I know that my show is full of white men, then what am I here for? I'm not doing the job that I'm supposed to do, that I'm here to do. So I need to make sure, let me go find a medical expert who is a Black woman, or let me go find or a Black man, or let me go find, or an Asian, or let me just make sure that the show is diverse. And that's our job. I always say when a Black woman is in charge, everybody eats. If a Black woman is in charge, then I firmly believe that we will make sure that everyone eats.
So you said something really, really interesting to me. She says, I go look for a subject matter expert.
Yeah.
How do you find the subject matter expert? Are they pitched into you? Are you Google? Do you go to a particular website? Do you look at PR Newswire? Do you look at expert.com? I mean, where do you go that gives you the comfort level? Like, okay, this person is solid.
I go to Instagram. I go to Instagram.
Oh my God.
And that's what's funny, because you know what Instagram tells me?
What's that?
Instagram tells me about your brand. Instagram tells me everything I need to know about you. It tells me you're going to go on. If I go on Instagram, that's your audition. So I'm expecting to see segments. I'm expecting to see video vignettes. I'm expecting to see, if you're pitching me, I want to be able to see you do your thing in all color. I want to see your brand. And that's what Instagram gives me.
Wow.
It gives me your full picture.
You
So I
have
go to
you have
Instagram.
just sent some people over here to Instagram and said, "Let me get my Instagram life together right now." And someone just said, "Wow, Instagram."
I
So
go to Instagram
and she's
because
got her
because the
wait a minute,
thing
she
is,
got her MBA and looking for subject matter experts, and you talk about Instagram. She's like, let me get it all the way together.
I go to Instagram because what LinkedIn will tell me what you want me to know.
Mm,
LinkedIn will tell me but I need color. I want to see you in all of your color.
mhm,
And that's what
mhm,
Instagram will give me. I want to hear you speak. I want to see how you're not necessarily your home life, but I just want to see your swag. I want to see everything about you. It just
yeah,
gives me, I want to be able to give my viewers a show. I want
mhm,
to be able to give them the best. I want them to see everything. And so
mhm.
that's where your auditions come in on
I love
Instagram.
that. I
Yeah.
love that. I teach that because as a publicist, right, we were just always taught radio, broadcast, print, right? I mean, broadcast and print, the traditional way. And so
Mhm.
when social media hit the scene, now remember, I'm a baby boomer. So when it hit the scene, it was hard to get my clients to really figure out that they really need to be there.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
like, you do, boo. It's
Yeah.
like, I know you don't know how to do, but it's like you've got to be there,
Yeah.
especially authors. So you need to connect with your readers or whatever. So now it becomes a thing. And so when you said that, it just gives it such a what I've already kind of knew, but the fact of like why, because you're seeing their engagement, you're seeing their life, you're seeing how they truly are.
Because
And
the thing is, you'll send me a pitch, you can send me a pitch, and I'll get through the pitch and I'll just go to the bottom to see where your Instagram is. And then I'll decide from there. Then I'll go back to your pitch and then I'll say, okay,
mhm,
all right, now that I know what he or she looks like, now I know how they sound, now I know what their brand is like. Now let me see what they're pitching me.
yes.
I need to see, I need the visuals first
What
because
about the
I'm
Google?
TV.
What about Googling? Are you Googling people to see
After
what
Instagram,
has been said and,
oh, yeah, absolutely. Because after Instagram, then I need to go and vet you, and I need to make sure that now I have
give
to
me
do the
warrants
work.
out?
Yeah, now right now I have to do the work to make sure you are who you say you are. Then I'll go to LinkedIn, and then we'll do the reference checks and all those things. Yeah.
That is good. It says absolutely a thing to be connected on social media. Yes, that is so that. And then even like Renee, she says, I love color. Yeah, it's like she
Hmm.
says she is there.
Yeah.
So L Renee Richardson says, I am there. So that is so cool. It is. So I typically this has been so good. Typically our shows are only 30 minutes, but because it's a podcast, it's not news. We don't have to do all the lines, producer things like commercial. But I just want to say I just love what you're doing. You are amazing. You're back in New York.
I
Now,
am.
now from Atlanta to New York. I mean, Atlanta was kind of like quote unquote the new Hollywood. New York is obviously the number one media market.
Yeah.
So does it feel, because you were in New York before, how does it feel now since post COVID type of thing?
I am a lover of New York. I just love New York so much. But what I can say, just real quick, because I know we're running out of time. When I moved back to Atlanta from New York, I had a new appreciation for Atlanta and the fact that you don't have to pay. My parking at work at ABC was, I think it was $400 a month. So I had a new appreciation for how easy life is in Atlanta. So
That is so
um,
true. Oh
oh
my
my
goodness.
God. But I love New York so much. And I'm just incredibly blessed to be able to, and I'm so excited to be able to walk into the 30 Rock building just because it's just this institution that,
Mhm.
you've watched growing up and, Saturday Night Live is there. It's just just to be able to have the opportunity to be in the space with all of these smart and amazing people for me is just incredible. And I can't wait to see, what I learn next and where I go next. So
Yes,
yeah.
and then also too, it's open again. Things are open again, so that's the other
Yeah.
part. It becomes like, okay, so now you can have a real New Year's Eve there coming up in
Right.
2022, right? It's just like, okay, so now we're almost feeling like quote unquote
Yeah.
normal.
Normal, almost there. But
So
you just
tell us
have
about
to.
Picture Perfect course, because I really want you to let people know
Yeah.
about that.
So,
I've had it up on the thing, but just really let people know how they can work with you.
yeah. So for me, with Picture Perfect, one of the things that I always I end up spending a lot of time on as a producer is I get these amazing pitches that come in, but as a producer, I have to take this pitch to my team. Well, if your pitch is not together, as a producer, we just have to say, okay, they don't have it together. So, it could be a good pitch, but if it's not packaged how we need it, then we just don't have time. But because I just have a huge love for our community and just people who just have amazing products. And I understand what it feels like to be on that side when you just need someone to teach you, because I just needed someone to teach me news, and someone took the time to teach me. So one person told me, they said, Tamisha, the way that you teach this, you need to make this into a course. And I said, I never thought about it, but then I made it into a course. And let me tell you something, the way people flocked to that course and the relationships that I've built and the people that I've put on television, as a result of them just getting their package together, learning, who do I pitch to? How do I find these stations? What do I do once I get booked? What kind of booking should I ask for? How do I maintain a relationship with these producers? Is it just going to be a one-off, or can I be a subject matter expert? Can I be a contributor every week? How do I see these people every week? Why are they always on every single week? I'll tell you why. Though that's what the course goes through. These are things that we just do every I see these people every day, and I know who I have on speed dial, and I know why I call them. And it's not because they're the best. They're not because they're the best, but they're consistent and they understand. They make my job easier.
There you go.
How can you make my job easier? How can you make producers' jobs easier? And I've worked at every network now. I've worked at ABC, BET, CBS, NBC. I've worked everywhere. So there's no tricks that I haven't already come across. There's nothing that a producer, I know it. And so that's what I'm teaching the subject matter experts in this course, pictureperfectcourse.com. How you can become, how this can be your thing. Why do I see the same attorney, handling legal cases on every station? It's the same person. Well, there's a reason why. They make our job easier. So
that is really the main point of making their job easier. I remember someone pitching me, and I was on the National Publicity Summit, and they told me their pitch, and I told them, I said, I have Speakers Magazine. Speakers Magazine is really about African American speakers, right? Yep. And they decided to pitch me anyway. And I said, that's not really my demo. And they said, well, I just figured you could just figure something out. I can figure something out for you. I'm going to read through all your stuff and just try to figure that out. No, you figure it out for me and come to me and tell me. So I was like, they don't understand the amount of pressure. How fast it moves, how everything is timed. You've got a team you got to work with. You're trying to work with them. You do want to give them some shine. Absolutely. But it can't be a commercial.
Because we need them. We need them. Without the subject matter experts, we don't have TV.
Right.
So we need them, but we need we need people who understand the business, and we need people who understand how to package themselves.
Good. That is the whole thing about how to package yourselves. And I am just so excited.
This is so fun.
I know this is like the holiday, really, but it was a special day. So that was the main thing. And I knew that being a TV producer, that you're working probably 10, 12 hours a day. Yeah. So it cannot be crazy where you're pitching her a bunch of stuff, and don't make it long. Please don't make stuff long for her to read. You don't have
we
time
go over all of that in the course. We go over, so that way you can take pitches and you can send them to who they need to go to.
Perfect. I love it. So pictureperfectcourse.com. Tamisha Harris, thank you so much. When I come to New York, I want to look you up, and then we go and
you don't have to look me up. You know where I am. You have my information.
One of the spots where we could go in New York, because I feel like I'm coming out now. Like I can go going to DC earlier this next week, and then so it's like I'm feeling like I've got to do some things now.
Yeah, so it'll be great. I'm looking forward to it.
And I also want to have you in Speakers Magazine as well, because I want you to really talk about your course, because a lot of speakers need it. So I want to get your information, your bio, and all that kind of stuff, and have you in the magazine. There's Mr. Les Brown there. It's one of our favorites. But basically, a lot of these people are subject matter experts. And by you being in the magazine, you can really show them
Oh, that's amazing. I would
how
love to do it.
how to
Yeah,
how to do it, how to do it.
I love it.
And the thing what I like about you is you're smart, and you basically use like, I'm gonna learn this thing. I'm gonna learn
Got to do
Canva.
it.
I'm gonna learn Final Cut Pro, which
Everything. Everything.
that stuff
There's
that
no
I
excuses.
read about her at the beginning, that is not easy to learn. She learned on her own. I have a friend like that, Monica Morgan, who taught herself photography, and she's like shot like President Obama, Nelson Mandela, Rosa Parks, and taught herself. But that's the vision or the passion that you have. So I want people to understand, if you really, really want it really, really bad, you do have to really put in the work. Get a mentor, get a coach. My program, Ready, Set, Go, Speak, I help people at the very beginning, if they don't know where to start, like before you even get to Tamisha, how to really get your brand together first, how to really pull all that together so that you can have the right packaging, but you need the language first. So we really help you with that as well. So thank you so much for joining me. Oh, good. All righty. So thank you all for on LinkedIn Live, Facebook Live, and YouTube Live. We will see you. The show notes will be in a couple of weeks, so you'll get all the links to everything we talked about. With that, have a good day.
You've been listening to the Get Out There and Get Known podcast, brought to you by PamPerryPR.com, where you'll get insider tips on how to build your platform, pitch the media, and promote yourself with confidence. Head over to PamPerryPR.com and get the exclusive video training on the 7 must-have marketing materials you need before you pitch in order to be considered in media places or superstar stages. PamPerryPR.com, where we help you shine like a superstar.